So, new titles then this week. Looks like we're all cartoon characters.
Who are you two then, Shrek and Donkey?
Welcome to this week's Cats Whiskers TV. Welcome to this week's Cats Whiskers TV. Thanks for tuning in as always. On this week's packed show, we're looking back at the Sheffield and Cardiff games from the weekend. Our guest is Radio Nottingham's Owen Bradley. We'll be looking at Mike Danton's visa refusal and also the great news that Guillaume Lepine is returning to the Panthers. But first, it's Paul Baum with the news.
I'm Paul Baum and this is the news. Devon Didier-Mete hears that Mike Danton's visa appeal has been rejected. The effects of only getting 3 points from 4 games finally takes its toll on the Cage Forum server. Jason Silverthorne welcomes Guillaume Lepine back to the EIHL. And that's the news.
Our guest this week is Radio Nottingham's Owen Bradley. Thanks for joining us, Owen.
No problem.
First thing I want to ask you is, this is your 3rd season now as Panthers correspondent, so how did that come about?
Like all things in this industry, good fortune basically. When I was at Union Leeds, I did a sport broadcasting module. I did a story about British ice hockey and the Panthers development, so I came down and interviewed Clarkey, Leaves, those kind of guys. Started on a work placement at the BBC over in Derby. Got to know Chris Ellis in Nottingham, and basically the end of my first season, Chris got an offer to do better things that meant he couldn't do the job that he was doing anymore. They needed somebody else, and they knew I was a hockey fan, so they asked me.
You also do things for BBC Radio Derby as well, so what are you involved with there?
Well, that's my main job. That's where I'm contracted to be most of the time. Read the sport in the mornings, football commentaries, which I do for Radio Nottingham as well. Whatever's asked of me, basically.
Because you've been doing some Mansfield commentaries recently, haven't you?
Yeah, split my time basically between Burton Albion and Mansfield Town, and then wherever else I'm sent. So yeah, bit of the Stags, bit of the Brewers. It's all good fun.
Moving on to the Panthers now, you obviously have probably a more privileged insight than the average Panthers fan. What sort of things go on behind the scenes that you can tell us about?
Well, you know, my access isn't really that much further than your average fan. The guys have their own corridor, especially this season with the new locker room that's been built, and I'm very much a believer in not being too close to the players, especially in my job. So, you know, I don't go down that corridor unless I'm invited, and I try not to get too close to the players. Obviously, I build a relationship with them, I have to deal with them. What do I see that you guys don't? The guys work hard. The guys probably take things, they probably pay a bit more attention than fans sometimes realise to what's said about them, things like that. And they work damn hard is what I'll say. And you know, you look at Saturday's defeat, nobody will take that defeat any harder than the players, that's for sure.
Well, talking about Saturday, we spoke to some Panthers and Steelers fans before the game. Who's going to win?
Panthers.
And why?
Well, we're the better team on paper, but whether we play like that, that's the question. But I think we can do it tonight because obviously, you know, hopefully Corey's told them, you know, this is a big one for us. We need to win it. We need to start showing that we are the dominant force in the league, and we will win it.
Okay, thanks for that. Who's going to win?
Honestly, the brain says Steelers, the heart says Panthers.
Why?
I just think the chirpiness and the nastiness is going to come into this game. I think if we can contend with more than 2 or 3 players at Sheffield that are quite chirpy, quite nasty, we'll deal with the game fine. Offensively, we've got more firepower than we need. But if we start losing our cool and we start sitting in that bin, then we're going to be annihilated tonight.
Cheers, mate. Who's going to win?
Panthers.
Why?
I think the passion of the crowd will see us through.
Okay, who's going to win?
Hopefully us, but I mean, you know, I've not seen exactly what Panthers done, but if we're going to win tonight, we have to communicate better defensively and we have to play tighter defensively. Going forward, we've been okay, it's just we need to play better at the back.
Who's going to win?
Of course, I think we're going to win. It's about time we did. We've had a terrible run, especially last season here, and I think it's time to just change it and rewrite the record book.
Who's going to win?
I've got a feeling that it's going to be Nottingham.
Why?
I'm just not very, very confident with the netminder, John De Caro. So if he ups his game, I think we'll take it. But if not, I think it's Nottingham's.
So those were the views before the game. We spoke to some of the same fans again after the game had finished. So, why did we lose?
We were terrible at the end of the day. D played well, Jonathan Weaver, too many mistakes. That's what led it for him. Just giving the puck too much, and that's what led to their goals, I'm afraid. Can't say no more than that, really.
What did you think of the team's sort of backbone and general work rate?
It was good, but like I say, Weaver it was like he was a blazing disguise again. Like just trying to lose us a game. Lee, towards the end, he made some silly passes, just gave it away. Corey, I'm afraid, glory hound. Absolute glory hound. He was just after the game-winning goal, that was it. That led to a lot of their breakaways, but I don't know. We've got to get better. We've got to get better.
Changes, do you reckon?
Yes. I'm afraid Tuma, he'd have to go. He'd have to go. I mean, bringing him in, not declaring he's got an injury, and then just playing him still. It's silly, because you're just aggravating that injury even more. You need Beckett. I mean, we didn't really get to see much of him now, did we? Nice of him to stick up for the players, what we need. But other than that, we were just awful.
So why did we lose the game?
We didn't follow up on our checks. D wasn't playing back. Lakovic was playing back in D. Werner scored. Lack of passion. Well, I say passion. Some boys had passion, but I think what lost us the game really was there was just no foresight in what we were meant to be doing. Nobody. It was a team full of individuals. Team full of individuals.
Do you think changes are needed?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, big so. I think Tuma needs to shape up or ship out. Personal opinion. People might disagree. I think that penalty he took in the last 3.5 minutes was silly. We've got some amazing talent. We've got Weaver, we've got Clark, we've got some of the best players in the league. But other than the Brits tonight in Werner, didn't see it on the ice. I didn't see it.
So why did you win?
It was your own indiscipline, to be honest. I mean, Nielsen was poor to start with indiscipline-wise. Beckett got himself stupidly thrown out for third man in, and we just took advantage of it. You know, your own crowd started to get on your team's back a bit, and you know, we just took advantage of it. We stayed disciplined, and you know, and De Caro actually played big tonight, and he needed to play big, and he deserved his man of the match. And even though we went 3-0 up, I think the 3-2 scoreline is actually a fair reflection of the balance of the game by the end. Yeah,
because I actually thought 3-2 was reflected well on us, because I didn't think we deserved that at all.
Well, you came back into it, you know, you woke up with about 10 minutes to go, and that's when you really started getting some, you know, the wheels going in the legs. But by then it was a bit too late. I mean, you know, I think to be honest, that wasn't a Panthers team that I'm used to watching. You know,
not one I'm used to watching, to be honest.
It wasn't a Panthers team that I think a lot of people are used to, and I think Corey Nielsen's going to have a bit of a think potentially in a few weeks' time if things carry on the way they were there tonight.
Okay, so why did you win?
Pure and simple, Jono. Simple hard work. The lads battle for each other. From John De Caro through to Jeff Legui, they all battle for each other. They all know that they'd let the club down last year with the results, and this time they were determined to make amends, and that's what they did. Absolutely workaholics. I mean, like, by the time we're 50 minutes, we were absolutely dead. I think we were dead on the feet. That's why you got back into it. But it was a case of the lads just worked so hard. They worked the socks off.
Thanks for your views. Appreciate it. So views of some of the fans there. Speaking personally, I didn't think it. Well, I thought it was an awful performance apart from the last 10 minutes. Certainly not what I was expecting from a Panthers team against Sheffield. But Owen, you came in halfway through the first period because you had other commitments. What did you think overall of the game?
I walked in the door basically as Beckett swung the final punch at the end of the first period. So
which was a cracker, it has to be said.
Decent moment to come in. I think my opinion, I try to take the emotion out of it as much as possible. Have to, it's my job. Looking at the second period, in terms of pure puck possession, time on attack, Panthers had the better of it. But Sheffield were more clinical, and that was the difference for the vast majority of the game that I saw. Obviously, I've heard about the Bruce Graham chance right at the top of the game, and he looked to me when I arrived like a guy who had zero confidence. I think the skills are there, but he looks like a guy with zero confidence. Panthers staged the fight back late on. Personally, I thought it was fantastic to see David Clark and the way that he tried to spark the team. I had a couple of people tweeting me saying, well, we need David Clark on the ice. Well, yeah, but you also need something to do something for the team. And he stepped into that leadership role with Jordan Fox off the ice, and I was pleased to see that. Wasn't a good performance, don't get me wrong. The players will know that better than anyone. The coaching staff will know that better than anyone. But I think there is a tendency sometimes to get carried away on one performance, top of the season, without two imports, without your captain for most of the game, to stage the fight back that Nottingham did late on. I think they deserve a little bit more credit than they've been getting.
Okay. I mean, obviously, Tuma took a penalty at a pretty poor time. We'd just come back into the game, pulled it back to 3-1, and then Tuma took what I thought was a dumb penalty. Do you think the same?
Yeah, it wasn't a smart play, absolutely. Martin Tuma's had his problems. He's still finding his feet. Fitness-wise, he acknowledges he's got a lot of work to do, and that was a dumb penalty. Nottingham did not play well. They did not play well. But there was enough there in terms of team spirit, and that's the kind of game... I always say you have to build teams through adversity. You look at Nottingham for the last couple of years, they've had some really bad patches that they've come through to win things at the end of the season. And maybe we're better to get this game out of the way earlier on from a Panthers point of view. Not a good performance, but you've got to give them some credit for putting on a bit of a comeback at the end.
Okay. Paul, I'll come to you. You weren't at the game on Saturday, but I think we were talking after the game about... I was saying how I thought that last season's Panthers team would have destroyed that Sheffield team, because I honestly thought the Sheffield team aren't no great shakes, to be honest. Better than us, but they're not that good from what I've seen, certainly compared to last year. But, what do you think's missing?
Quality goal scoring, I think. You look at the people they've brought in, Ling... After those, we ranted and raved about how good he was against Dundee. He's been quiet since. He was very quiet last weekend against Belfast, and he's not really shown a lot since. I mean, Panthers, we know they're making changes. We've heard this afternoon Lepine's coming in, and we've just heard they're bringing an NHLer in. We don't know who it is yet, but if they're, all they need is an ITC. He's likely to be European, but I just think there's something missing. There's something. And I understand, about teams needing to gel, but we've played 2 or 3 teams who've been together as long as we have this season who are gelling far better than we are.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Well, of course, on Sunday night it was off to Cardiff, and thanks to Imagineer UK and Devils TV, we've got footage of the game. So it didn't get off to a great start at the Big Blue Tent, with McRae scoring after 42 seconds. But Panthers come straight back into it on the power play. Clark scoring, I think it was at 3:06. Good power play goal by Clark. And then, of course, the interesting incident at 4:36, where Didier met and Steve Lee have a fight.
You can't really tell much from the footage. It looks fairly even there. If you ask Didier Mete, he'll tell you different, obviously. Because,
but he loves his showboat, and look how he's waving to the crowd.
I think. Yeah.
But Lee goes down. I think they come back up again. And did you waving to the crowd?
There we go.
Yeah, well done. You beat a brick, kid. Yeah. Cardiff 2-1 towards the end of the first period. Straight over Kowalski's glove there from Mark Smith.
Like Kevin St Pierre, that man.
Worse in the second. That was Mac Faulkner, who's had a great start to the season, making it 3-1. And then Max Bearbrier with the fourth, 4-1 going into the third period. Panthers coming back into it in the third though. This is Eric Werner's goal, pretty soft. I think O'Sear will want that one back.
Absolutely, off Werner's face I think is the explanation, but every goal counts is the cliche.
Really nice power play goal coming up here. Graham to behind the net, and then Ling puts it right in front for Matt Myers to score. Lovely goal. So that was 4-3. Cardiff made it 5-3. One-on-one with Kowalski and no mistake on the backhand there. But then Panthers got 2 goals late on. First it was Robert Lakovic scoring off the rebound. And then with less than 2 minutes to go, David Ling from the angle makes it 5-5, take it into overtime. But there was a controversial penalty on Brandon Benedict at 62 minutes, give Cardiff the 4-on-3 power play. And there you go, there's the winner, no mistake, and Cardiff take the game 6-5. But with 4-1 down at the second period, you've got to say that we probably got out of jail a bit there.
Always a tough place to go, Cardiff. One of the tougher rinks when you speak to the players. You never want to say we'll take a point going in, but especially the circumstance end of the second period. Panthers will be delighted with a point, and in the cup as well. Got to come back to Nottingham. They'll be happy with that.
So what do you think, Paul? Because it's not an easy place to go, the Big Blue Tent, and get points.
It's not. It's like, it's a small, tight ring. It's different to a lot of others out there, and Cardiff have done what they need to make it their own. But at the end of the day, we can't go giving away 4-goal leads if we want to get anywhere. We scored 5, but to have to come back from 4-1 is going to do you week in, week out. You're not going to get a lot of points that way.
No, good point. Well, moving on to other incidents in the Elite League this weekend. Edinburgh netminder Thomas Herlovsky, I think I've said that right, has received an automatic 5-game ban for kicking in the Hull game. This is still to be reviewed at the time we're recording this, so he can probably expect a few more games for that, don't you think?
Well, I've not seen the incident, but this is going to be a test for the Elite League Disciplinary Committee. They've made a big thing out of it this year. I think the steps that they kind of went to toward the back end of last year, the Shanahan style, this is the incident, this are the points. I think that's a step in the right direction. Consistency is what everybody craves, and this is a good early test of that to see whether they can get the ball rolling in the right direction.
Paul, because you've never been a fan of the disciplinary committee and their consistency, what's your thoughts?
What consistency for a start? No, but we've already had Bradley getting 3 games for punching somebody. Kicking somebody with a razor-sharp piece of metal on the end of their foot. We'll see what happens.
Have you seen the incident?
Not yet, no, but it's kicking somebody. You just don't do that.
I mean, I've watched it. I've watched the video, but he definitely lashes out with his foot and he kicks towards. It probably, the incident's not as dangerous. I think it's what could have happened if somebody's face had been in the way or throat had been in the way.
It's always the same thing in hockey, is responsibility for your body. There are incidents, there are penalties that are called all the time for the referees not really properly understanding that. Players put their body in a position where they can get hurt and penalties get called. Yeah, you have to call a bad hit or whatever the incident is, but it's a responsibility for your own body thing, and you don't kick out, you just don't do it.
So we'll keep an eye on that one and see what happens. Also last week, and very big news, and one that's been rolling since well into the summer, is the Mike Danton to Coventry Blaze visa fiasco, I think it is. So his second visa application has now been refused. Before the game on Saturday, we spoke to Richard Bullock, who gave his opinions. So Mike Danton has been refused his visa, probably not a surprise, but what are your opinions of that?
Well, I mean, it's a very difficult one, isn't it? I mean, we know he's got this conviction for conspiracy to murder. He's served time in prison, but at the end of the day, he's been released from that. He's entitled to carry on his profession, and I think it's a shame because he seemed to be a bit of a character, would certainly have been one of the better players in this league, and I think on balance I'm disappointed that they've refused him.
Do you think that maybe the border agency might have been reviewing his tweets over the summer and that may have counted against him, or part of that counted against him?
I'm not sure whether they bother with what goes on Twitter. If they're going to do that, there'll be a lot of people who might not be allowed in the country.
So do you think that Coventry have probably played the wrong game with Danton? Do you think they would have been better cutting their losses early on and maybe getting someone else in?
I don't know how they dealt with it. They were clearly aware of the problem, and they, took a bit of a risk. But once you've committed to somebody, I think you're duty bound really to stand by them until the appeal process has been exhausted. There's no point in just crying off, backing off from somebody at the first refusal.
So that's the thoughts of Richard there. Owen, what's your opinion?
It's an interesting case, obviously. Mike Danton, quite a character, active on Twitter, exchanges with lots of players. It's a difficult one. I think there's been a tendency for people to go, he's a good player, we've got to get him over here, regardless of what's happened. But, the immigration laws that are affecting him affect everybody who wants to come to the country. And at the end of the day, he's coming here as an employee. So if those are the rules, those are the rules. The Blaze obviously thought they had a good case to make an exception, or they wouldn't have tried to bring him over here. They're saying they're still going to wait to see the final explanation before they decide whether they might try to appeal again. I'm not sure if they'll have the opportunity or not. Would have liked to see Danton over here, but if this is the decision that's made, it can't be a victimisation of the one person for me. It's just the case of those are the rules, we all have to live by them. At the end of the day, I couldn't go and work in America if I'd done what he'd done, regardless of anything that I'd done past. And as much as I believe in second chances, the law is the law.
So, Paul, you have a slightly different opinion to all this.
Yeah, I mean, he's done what he's done, and I'm all for second chances. My problem with him is that he tries to put himself off as such a great role model. You can't do that when you've done what he has. Yes, it sounds like he's got problems in his life. There's any number of people who've unfortunately had similar problems, but they've not gone around having somebody murdered. So I just think in situations like that, he'd be better off keeping his mouth shut.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Devon Didier met for wow. You can look at it too, but he was chirping him on Twitter. I thought that was a bit out of order after it got it refused. I mean, I know they've been having a spat all the way through this summer, but I really wasn't impressed with that.
The Twitter exchanges, shall we say, are a whole different can of worms, because the Elite League supposedly has a social media policy this year, and the things that are said between players and supporters are frankly out of order. And I'm a bit disappointed that the league's not done more and put some teeth behind that. In terms of Danton, I think maybe he's not engaged with it in the way that he could have done, but I still would have liked him to really rise above all that. Yeah. And that would, for me, would have been a great marker for him to put down. I have a lot of sympathy with him in the situation. We do all make mistakes at the end of the day, but circumstances are what they are, unfortunately.
Okay. Right, we're going to look ahead to next week, but also big news coming out on the Panthers today. At the time of recording, this will be yesterday when you see it. As of course, Guillaume Lepine coming back, which I personally think is great news, and I think the team has taken a massive step forward with his re-signing. Yeah,
I think when Guy didn't return in the summer, there was it was stated that he was being given the opportunity to go to the AHL and go for the shot, and obviously that's not worked out. And my understanding is that Nottingham have been in contact with him all summer to keep tabs on him, and always said the door's open if you want to come back. Other teams have gone after him. They've gone after him really hard, and he's decided not to go there. He wants to come back to Nottingham, which I think, as much as people, not the organisation, says something about it. And it's a massive boost. Remember when he arrived, he was a bit one-dimensional. He was one of Corey's projects. He's turned into a great all-round player. He'll be a physical presence. He'll be not just an out-and-out fighter, but he can play the game as well. Massive upgrade on the Panthers' blue line immediately. And with, Weaver's had a bit of a knock. Corey Nielsen, we're not sure how long he'll be out for. Could be up to a month, they were saying earlier today.
Or a month. Or
that as well. So it gives Nottingham options. I suspect this has been in the works for a couple of weeks. This isn't some people are saying already tonight that it's a reaction to one defeat to Sheffield. Of course it's not. You can't get the wheels in motion that quickly. So credit to Nottingham for getting the wheels moving a bit sooner. The timing of it works out very well if he can be in for the weekend.
Yeah. Great boost for a very downtrodden fan base at the moment.
I think it is, yeah. I mean, it's the prodigal son coming back, and that's always popular with people. But it's not going to. It's good, but it doesn't finish the package for me. There's still things that need to be looked at, but I'm happy.
Of course, there's other breaking news that we know there's an NHL player coming in on the lockout contract. We don't know who it is. We're pretty sure it's a European, being that there's been ITC clearance very quickly, and from the time we are recording this is expected here within 24 hours, so exciting times.
Well, we hope so. It may be that in 24 hours' time, when this goes out, it's a guy who's been in the AHL and played 5 NHL games. Who knows? Look, anyone with NHL caliber is going to improve the team. We saw that with Nick Boynton a few years ago. If he's a regular NHLer, he's going to be at the level that will make a big difference. It'll be interesting to see whether he's forward, defenseman. Personally, I think the defensive end is where the biggest upgrade is needed right now. You'll be solid at the back. You'll be amazed what it'll do for the forwards. It's exciting. Good to see Nottingham moving quickly as well. I'm sure there will be more arrive on these shores, especially if the lockout drags on a little bit.
So, Paul, you happy that Steve McKenna's coming back?
I can't wait. I can't wait.
No, in all seriousness, how do you think it is obviously going to improve the team? And again, it proves another boost because it's not been a great start to the season. In fact, it's been pretty poor to our normal standards. So, yeah, another great move, I think, by the club.
It is. I mean, obviously, we don't know who it is. We can all sit here and reel off any number of names, and I guarantee it won't be any of them because that seems to be the way it is. You look at the forums, and I think that's more wish fulfillment than anything else half the time. But yeah, it's going to be a shock, but yeah, it's got to be an improvement. An improvement is what we need.
Somehow I'll be the first to say, Alexander Ovechkin, welcome to the Panthers. We think you'll like it here. Anyway, moving on to this next weekend and another game against Sheffield, this time at the House of Steel. I think the players will have had a pretty timely boost with an NHLer coming in, the news of Guillaume Lepine. So hopefully, we could go in there and spring a surprise.
Well, it's a completely different game to the one that we've had Saturday gone. 2 new players into the lineup. Corey Nielsen likely not to be playing. Jordan Fox, you would hope at full fitness. Brandon Benedict's had a bit longer. David Ling's had a bit longer. You would hope this is Nottingham individuals that are getting up to full fitness and a team that's starting to gel as well. Until we know who this mystery guy is, it's really difficult to say. It's not, I don't think 100% that Guillaume Lepine will be in time for Saturday yet. I would expect that he will be. I'm not sure the club would have jumped the gun on it if there was a chance that he wouldn't be ready for Saturday. Different game. Sheffield, top of the league. They will be delighted with how their season has gone so far, especially with the result against the Panthers. And maybe, I remember seeing Nottingham last season, and they put on a fantastic display in Sheffield. Some of the best hockey I saw was in the House of Steel from Nottingham last season. So we will see what the roster looks like, and then we'll see how they perform.
Yeah. So what do you think? Because you're never the most optimistic going into these games. So what do you think this time?
I'm just going to stay at home and watch the X Factor again. Again?
It's rubbish.
It's boot camp. It's Judges' Houses this week.
Oh, I must say Sky Plus. Right, of course, on next Tuesday, is our next home game when we've got Cardiff here at the NIC. Team who's always seemed to struggle at our building, so you'd hope for a victory.
You'd hope for one, yeah. I mean, and the changes in the team, bringing, if Lepine's in, the NHLer, and maybe that'll bring that bit of extra toughness to the team that will shut the likes of Didier Mete up.
Yeah, Didier Mete against Lepine. That's going to be one to watch.
It absolutely will, but the question will be whether Nottingham can afford to have Lepine off the ice. He is a very good defenseman in this league as well, and that's always the question. I'm a big advocate of team toughness over one hard man, but it does mean that every now and again you are going to lose a guy to a 5-minute major or whatever it may be. So, but I think that will be an important game for Nottingham. The squad will be a bit more settled. We'll know a bit more about injuries to Nielsen and maybe one or two others if they pick up knocks. Putting on a show at home at that point, I think, will be really important for this team.
Well, that's all for this week. I'd like to thank Owen for joining us and Paul for joining us as always. We'll be on slightly later next week as we'll be taking in the Cardiff game, so expect the show to be out probably around Thursday next week. But thanks for watching, and until next week, good night.
So, what do you think of Guillaume Lepine coming back?
The student says, keep your head up, son.